Artists only post their good art. Even though we know it's impossible, artists online insist on portraying this persona of someone who never makes bad art. I do this. Most artists you've seen on Instagram probably do this. Even art that's improvised or made live is still created with the conceit that the art doesn't need to be good for comedy or irony purposes. And then the persona is of someone who only makes bad art when they don't intend to make good art. And I don't think that's relevantly different. That is not to say that there isn't bad art on the internet. There is. My point is that our idea of what a good artist is incredibly skewed. This isn't exclusive to social media platforms. I mean, how many bad Van Gogh paintings have you seen, and how many artists do you know of who were prominent before the year 2000 that are better than bad and less than fantastic? I would consider myself pretty good at art, but if I open a project folder on my computer or a sketchbook, more than half of those drawings simply aren't very good. And both of those things can be true at the same time. In fact, I bet if you're someone watching this who makes art, they're true for you too. I got a little scheme. In a moment, I'm going to give you a bit of a digital gallery of the worst art I've produced recently. Then you can follow a Google form through a link in the description to submit your own bad art, an anti-portfolio, if you will. Then I'll do a whole bad art gallery using your art in a future video. You can submit a piece or two that you're actually proud of if you want, especially if there's some type of website or social media page that I could link to when I show your art. But primarily, I want it to be bad. Okay, here is photo evidence of my crimes, admissible in court, of course. I think we're starting strong with this one. Strong as in it's notably not very good. I didn't really know what the goal was here. I think I wanted something high contrast, but I didn't really commit, and I wanted something that I could make quickly. But that just kind of meant that I would do it with low effort. I don't know exactly when this was from, but I don't know if this guy is like trapped in a closet or some type of brick structure, and maybe those are skulls. It's just unclear, and I think it's billing itself as abstract in some way, but really it's just uninspired. And also this pose it's not giving us any information. The same with this face. That's one thing that I've never been great at, is drawing stylized facial expressions. If you look at the top of his skull here, it doesn't really fully follow the structure of his face, especially then when you get down to the chin. The eyes don't look like they're in their sockets. This one's a 2 out of 10. It's just a guy with some ears. I think I just wanted to draw a guy with some ears, and that's why this exists. This next one is one of my first attempts at doing actual digital painting, and the fun thing about this one, as you can see, it's Mario in some way. He's very large, and he's pointing with his finger, but the hands aren't rendered very well. I believe Mario has... Oh wait, no, he does have all 5 fingers here, except for not on the right hand. No 5 fingers on the right hand, and it really doesn't look like he's holding that mallet. And this was another thing where I was so focused on trying to get the rendering, which was not something that I was good at, and not something that I had practiced, that I kind of neglected the sketching stage. And the perspective here isn't done very well. And if you look at the way that his overalls are fitting onto his body, it's kind of incomprehensible that this would extend to the areas that it's supposed to. Again, it's bad. It doesn't even really look like the character. I think I was going for like if you remember that old like 1980s Super Mario Brothers Super Show kind of thing, where he looks more like a human, but I didn't lean into that realistic aspect enough either, because if you can see, looking at the eyes and the facial structure, nothing is, like in the last image, high enough contrast to portray the details that I want to. And if you look at the shape of his hat, it just doesn't follow any type of skull structure. So yeah, another bad one. This one is also Mario related. This one needs some explanation. If anyone's aware of that trend of when... What was it? This is also Mario related. It was Super Mario Brothers 3D World Deluxe for the Nintendo Switch plus Bowser's Fury or whatever, or maybe it was Super Mario New Soup U Deluxe. Anyway, they had the trend with the Bowsette, because the Peachette could turn into Toad with, I don't remember how it worked, but I had never seen. Oh, and then when the Super Mario Brothers movie came out, there was a trend of shipping Luigi with Bowser. So it's sort of, I had never seen like a sapphic Bowsette Luigi ship art, and I looked and I don't even know if that's a thing now, but I decided to draw it, and I did not give it much attention. I was again going for like something fast, so if you look, her hands aren't rendered properly. The pose on Luigi's hands don't really make sense. I do like the design of this dress. I said that's the one part that's pretty good, in the shape of his torso. But then even his face is just kind of, his expression is a little dead. If you look at actual like Super Mario renders, they're incredibly expressive, even with very simple designs. And I could have done a lot more justice to that. If you look, his left ear comes out in a way that doesn't really make sense either. Another thing is, I do like the design of this dress as well, but for the Bowsette here, but the shoes are way too small. Like, her feet could not realistically fit in there. It just doesn't work. It's the same thing as this pose and this facial expression, not doing much. So I don't like this art, but not for the reasons that maybe you would think. Other thing with the rendering is, I don't know where the light source is coming from this image. I usually default to like somewhere on the, coming from the left, pointing to the right. But it seems like it's just like coming from the front studio type lighting, and that works for most of this, except for on the dresses. If you look, it's not hitting this sash properly, or this pendant at the top of her dress on the left, and neither is for Luigi's dress. With the front here, you're seeing shadows at the bottom near his abdomen, and that doesn't go there. If the light's coming from the front, it shouldn't go there. So again, it's like, I want to be able to make art that's good, and I want to be able to make it fast, and sometimes you just can't do both. This other one is art kind of myself that I did. This is probably the oldest piece that we have, and most of it I like. Like, I like the coloring on the hair and the way that the curls are rendered for the most part. There could be more smaller ones, and that's something that I do more often now. But it's supposed to be like a mouse. Like, there's supposed to be mouse ears, but they look like coconuts. And the face is, again, pretty expressionless. The lighting on the left side of the head here doesn't really match the shadows that are coming from really anywhere. I don't know what that's for. I think it was coming from the hair, but it's not in the right direction. And then the proportions of the face and the way that the lips are drawn are just strange. It doesn't even match my facial structure. And the space between the nose and the mouth is not really even realistic for like an actual human face. And then the eyebrows going over the hair just looks pretty ugly. I hate this one. I really don't like this one. I've never been good at drawing myself. I think there's, and also just, I do like the one thing that this is like a mouse or like a rat, so the choker here is a rat tail, but then I don't know why this image doesn't have shoulders. It just looks ugly and kind of off-putting, and it doesn't feel like a justified creative choice. This next is a round of sketches of just things that I sort of don't know how to draw, is cats. This is one of the only things that I'm better at now than I was before, because like with the digital painting, I'm not better at digital painting than I was when I made that piece. I just kind of let it be bad, and I think that it's okay to let some art fundamentals be bad for a while. Like, you should learn all of your things that are gonna be valuable, and you know, the important stuff like perspective and anatomy and composition is a big one, and color theory as well. But you're not gonna be great at everything. I really like this one. Like, the body looks fine, but then the proportions on the head are absurd. And then I could never figure out how to draw the open mouths correctly, and the shape of the spine, which is, I've been doing this more recently. You should really draw action lines. An action line just denotes the position and direction of your character's body, and it makes everything so much easier. It might have to draw it a couple times. It might make things harder, but in the long run, everything is going to look better, and you're going to give yourself so much information that you kind of would have had to make up on the fly otherwise. This next one is Utena, Revolutionary Girl Utena. Is a 90s anime, and this is the thing is where I can't really draw that style in particular at all. These newer sketches are fine in terms of quality, like these two, but they just don't look like the character. I was using direct reference. I use reference for all of the pieces here, and sometimes it just doesn't work. Like, these do not look as they do in the actual animation cells. They just look very generic, and they don't even look consistent between the two that I did. And don't even get me started on the proportions of the way that characters are drawn in that show. It's good. Like, I like the way that it's made, but it's incredibly hard to draw, at least for me. Especially because you have to define so much structure, especially because there's a lot of movement in a really small space. And you can see in this even older drawing where nothing in this image looks good at all. It is nasty, and it's not like I was just doing, like, I wanted this part to look good. I think I was trying to design some type of specific fan art. I even wrote, "She is hard to draw" on the paper here, because it is very difficult to draw, and the proportions aren't right. If you look, the arms are far too long, and the hair is way off. Yeah, it's bad. Oh, this is another one with cats. A little bit better, but still, I couldn't get the eyes right. It's very strange. And the last one is stylized human proportions, because sometimes, especially in like style of Bruce Timm, and the Pokemon Indigo League, that sort of thing, stylized human proportions is really good. Things should be based in real human anatomy, but they don't have to be one-to-one, and I think I took that idea and sort of run with it and just sort of started drawing characters that don't follow any type of anatomy. This is why you should draw guidelines. This is why you should draw your action lines and build out the form of your character before you start drawing details. If you think you can, sometimes you can, but most of the time just save yourself the trouble and draw it properly as much as you can. Same here, it's just the head is way too large. The poses are a little bit better here, but even then I was trying to design this character, and I like to design characters with poses in mind, because it's part of their personality, and I don't have all the information I need about a character to continue drawing them until I know what they're like. Because, drawings are art, and art has emotion, and it has context, and that's really important, and this is not giving that. I'm trying to draw this character playing violin, and I play violin in real life, but I don't. Drawing like this is not an accurate. I know they're tuning the instrument, but even then, you would hold it way higher. And I do like that it's very big, but if you were this size, you would be given a smaller violin, or you would purchase a smaller violin. And the proportions are just way off there. Same with this. This is incredibly recent. Just designing this character, I was actually going for a Bruce Timm-esque style, and I just sort of what's the past tense of forego? I have had foregone getting the character's proportions right before I started drawing them, and you can really tell, especially in the way that the legs are positioned relative to the rest of the body. It just feels off, especially, they're carrying an item, and that's going to fall on the legs for the most part, and that is not reflected in the pose here. The expression's a little bit better than we've been seeing before, but as you can see, I just haven't really improved much in that area. But that doesn't make the art, well, the art is bad, but that doesn't make the artist bad. So the whole point of this is that I don't have much of a positive or negative track record of art, especially on this platform,
So I want to start things off, not negative necessarily, but realistic, of saying, have faith that I a little bit know how to draw and paint and animate and etc. But ultimately, most of the art, or at least around half of it that I make, is bad. And I bet that most of the art that you make is bad too. And that is okay. So go to the Google form and show me your sins. Thank you so much.